AITA for refusing to go to my best friend's wedding after he told me not to bring my wife. This whole situation has me feeling like I'm losing my mind. I, 33M, have been best friends with Adam, 33M, since we were kids, like sandbox-level best friends. We grew up in the same neighborhood, went to the same schools, shared the same friend group, and even moved to the same city after college. I can't remember a time when he wasn't a part of my life. We've been through so much together, bad breakups, family drama, job changes. He was my best man when I married my wife, Claire, 31F, 4 years ago, and I always thought he'd be in my life forever. But now, things feel like they're falling apart, and I honestly don't know if our friendship is going to survive this. Here's the situation. Adam is getting married next month to his fiancée, Rachel, 29F. They've been together for about 3 years now, and I'd say we've all gotten along pretty well, at least that's what I thought. Rachel has always seemed nice enough, though she's a bit more reserved than the rest of our friend group. She's got this quiet, serious energy, which is fine, but she's not the kind of person who really opens up at parties or hangs out casually. I never thought much of it because different people have different personalities, and I respected that. As for Claire, she's been nothing but friendly towards Rachel. Whenever we had group gatherings, she'd always try to include Rachel in conversations, invite her out for coffee, or suggest double dates. It never really went anywhere. Rachel would usually decline, saying she was too busy with work or had other plans. But I never took that as a personal thing. It just seemed like Rachel preferred to keep a bit of distance. Things started to feel off around the time Adam and Rachel got engaged. Suddenly, Adam became a lot more distant. Our weekly game nights started to become less frequent, and when we did get together, he seemed distracted, like he had one foot out the door. At first, I figured it was just the stress of wedding planning. Everyone says weddings are stressful, right? And I assumed that after the wedding, we'd settle back into our usual rhythm. But then the wedding invitations came out, and everything went to hell. It was a Saturday morning, and Claire and I were eating breakfast when I saw an email pop up on my phone with the subject line, Adam and Rachel's wedding. You're invited. I opened it, expecting to see the usual +1 included. But instead, it was addressed only to me, and there was no mention of Claire anywhere. I thought it was a mistake, maybe an oversight in the online invitation system, so I texted Adam to check. Me, hey man, just got the invite to the wedding. Super excited, but I think there's a mistake. Claire's name isn't on the invite? Adam didn't reply right away, which was weird for him. Normally he's quick with texts. It wasn't until that evening that he finally got back to me. Adam, hey, no mistake? Claire's not invited, sorry. I hope you understand. I stared at the message, trying to process it. My first reaction was confusion. Why wouldn't Claire be invited? I called him right away, and when he picked up, I could hear the tension in his voice. Adam, what do you mean Claire's not invited? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. She's my wife. Why wouldn't she be included? There was a long pause, and then he let out a sigh. Look, it's complicated, okay? Rachel and I talked about it, and we just think it's better if she doesn't come. It's for the best. For the best. I repeated, incredulous. What does that even mean? Did something happen between Rachel and Claire that I don't know about? Adam hesitated, then said, it's not about anything specific. Rachel just feels uncomfortable around her, and we don't want any tension on the wedding day. I know it's awkward, but I'm really hoping you can respect that. I could feel my temper rising. Uncomfortable? That's the best you can give me? Claire's been nothing but nice to Rachel, and you know that. What could she possibly have done to make Rachel uncomfortable? Look, man, I don't want to get into all the details right now, Adam said, sounding exasperated. This is just how it is. I still really want you to come, but Rachel and I agreed on this. I'm sorry if that's hard to hear. I was so stunned that I didn't even know how to respond. I hung up after some mumbled pleasantries, feeling like I'd just been punched in the gut. Claire was in the living room, watching TV, and when she saw the look on my face, she muted it. What's wrong? She asked, her brow furrowing in concern. I didn't know how to say it without making it sound as bad as it was, but there was no sugarcoating it. Adam, he said you're not invited to the wedding. He didn't really explain why. Just said Rachel feels uncomfortable around you. The hurt in Claire's eyes was immediate and sharp, like I'd physically struck her. What? She said, her voice barely above a whisper. What did I do to make her uncomfortable? I don't know, I said, running a hand through my hair in frustration. I asked him, but he wouldn't give me a straight answer. He just kept saying it's their decision. Claire looked down at her hands, twisting her wedding ring around her finger in that way she does when she's nervous. Mark, if they don't want me there, then, I don't know, maybe you should just go without me. I don't want to be the reason you miss your best friend's wedding. But the thought of going to the wedding without her made my stomach churn. How could I stand by Adam's side as he said his vows, knowing that he and Rachel had excluded my wife for reasons they wouldn't even share? It felt like a betrayal of everything our friendship was supposed to be about. No, I said firmly, reaching for her hand. If you're not welcome, then I'm not going either. We're a team, Claire. I'm not going to let them treat you like this. Claire tried to smile, but I could see the sadness in her eyes. You're sure? I don't want to come between you and Adam. You're not coming between us, I said, my voice tight. He's the one who put us in this position. I'm not going to leave you behind like that. Over the next few days, I thought about everything Adam had said, replaying the conversation in my head, trying to figure out where things had gone so wrong. I even tried reaching out to a few mutual friends, hoping they might have some insight into what was going on with Rachel. But all I got were vague comments about how Rachel was sensitive and how I should just try to be understanding. It felt like I was missing a huge part of the story, but no one was willing to fill in the blanks. A week later, Adam called me again, this time sounding more desperate. Mark, please, I really want you to be at the wedding. It wouldn't feel right without you there. And it doesn't feel right to me to leave Claire out, I shot back. If you can't invite both of us, then I'm not coming. That's my final word on it. Adam was quiet for a long moment. Fine, he said finally, his voice colder than I'd ever heard it. Do what you want. But don't say I didn't try. After that, we didn't speak again. The wedding date came and went, and I tried to distract myself. But it was impossible not to think about what was happening. I wondered if Adam had a moment, standing at the altar, when he thought about the empty spot where I was supposed to be. I wondered if he missed me, or if he and Rachel were just glad that they'd gotten their way. A few weeks after the wedding, I got a message from another friend in our group, Matt. He invited me out for a beer, saying he wanted to catch up, and I agreed, figuring it would be good to get out of the house and hear about how everyone was doing. But when I showed up at the bar, it became clear that Matt had an agenda. So, I'm guessing you and Adam haven't patched things up yet? Matt asked after we'd been talking for a while, his tone careful. I let out a bitter laugh. He hasn't reached out, and I haven't either. I doubt there's much to patch up after he treated Claire like that. Matt nodded slowly, taking a sip of his beer. Yeah, about that. Look, man, I'm not trying to take sides, but I think there's more to this than you realize. I frowned, feeling my irritation flare up. What are you talking about, Matt? If there's something I need to know, then just tell me. Matt hesitated, glancing around like he was making sure no one else could hear us. It's Rachel, okay? She's got this thing about feeling like she doesn't fit in. She thinks Claire looks down on her. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what she believes, and it's been eating away at her for a while. I stared at Matt, trying to wrap my head around what he was saying. What do you mean she thinks Claire looks down on her? That's ridiculous. Claire's always been nice to her. I know, Matt said quickly. But Rachel's got this complex, man. She's always thought that Claire is, I don't know, too perfect or too confident or something. She thinks Claire makes her look bad by comparison, even though Claire doesn't try to. And when it came time for the wedding, I guess she felt like having Claire there would make her feel small, I guess. I leaned back in my chair, feeling a mix of frustration and disbelief. That's insane. Claire's never judged Rachel for anything. If Rachel feels like that, she should have talked to us instead of banning her from the wedding. I agree, Matt said, raising his hands defensively. But you know how some people are. They let things fester instead of dealing with them head on. I'm just telling you what I know, because I think you should hear the other side. I didn't say anything for a long time. I just sat there, staring at my beer, thinking about how ridiculous and unfair the whole situation was. If Rachel had some kind of insecurity, why did that mean Claire had to be punished for it? Why did it mean that I had to choose between my best friend and my wife? Eventually, I shook my head. Thanks for telling me, Matt. But honestly, it doesn't change anything. If Rachel wanted to keep Claire out of her life, she's gotten her wish. Matt sighed, looking like he wished he could argue. But he just clinked his glass against mine and changed the subject. I could tell he thought I was being stubborn, but I didn't care. As far as I was concerned, I'd made my choice, and I wasn't going to back down. Months went by, and Adam and I still didn't talk. Our mutual friends tried to stay neutral, but it was obvious that the rift between us was affecting the whole group. They'd invite me to a get-together, and then casually mention, "Oh, by the way, Adam's going to be there," like they were testing the waters to see if I'd flinch. I'd decline most of the time, not wanting to put myself in a position where things could get ugly. But then one day, Sarah found out that she was pregnant. When she told me, it was like the clouds had finally parted after months of tension and anger. We cried, we laughed, and for the first time in ages, I felt like we had something to look forward to. We started planning for the baby, and for a while, everything else faded into the background. But as Sarah's belly grew, and we started sharing the news with friends and family, I couldn't help but think about how I would have normally told Adam the moment we found out. I kept wondering if he'd even care that he was going to be an uncle, as he used to joke, or if he'd written me off for good. One evening, as Sarah and I were folding tiny clothes in the nursery, she looked over at me and said, "Do you think you'll ever reach out to Adam again?" I paused, thinking about all the time that had passed, all the hurt and anger that still simmered under the surface. "I don't know, Claire," I admitted. "Maybe someday, but I'm not ready yet. And honestly, I don't know if he is either." Sarah nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Just, whatever happens, I don't want you to have any regrets. Even if things can't go back to the way they were, maybe there's a way to find some closure." I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me knew she was right, but the other part of me was still clinging to the anger, still replaying the conversations with Adam in my head. Maybe it would take more time, or maybe time wouldn't change anything at all. But as I sat there, surrounded by the promise of our growing family, I couldn't help but wonder if there was still a chance for healing, even if it looked nothing like the friendship I'd once thought was unbreakable. The weeks passed, and we got deeper into the preparations for our baby's arrival. Sarah and I spent weekends building the crib, setting up the nursery, and discussing names. It was the happiest I'd felt in months, like we had something bright and hopeful to look forward to after all the darkness. But even in those joyful moments, there was still this nagging sense of loss. I hadn't spoken to Adam in over 8 months. A part of me wondered if he even knew about the baby. The old me would have shared the news with him immediately, called him up with excitement, and planned how he could be a part of our child's life. But now, there was nothing but radio silence between us, a chasm that seemed to grow wider with every passing day. About a month before our baby's due date, I got a call from my friend Matt again. I hadn't seen much of him since our last conversation at the bar, but he reached out with the same casual warmth, asking if I could meet up. We met at the same bar, and this time, I braced myself for whatever new development he might bring up about Adam or Rachel. After some small talk and a beer, Matt cleared his throat and said, "So, I guess you've heard about Adam and Rachel." I frowned, genuinely confused. "What about them? I haven't heard anything since." "Well, you know," Matt took a sip of his beer, looking uncomfortable. "They're having some problems. It's not really my place to get into it, but I thought you should know. Rachel's been struggling since the wedding, and I guess things have been tense between her and Adam. Some of us think it might be about what happened with you and Claire." I blinked, taken aback. It was strange hearing about the trouble in their relationship after so long. And a part of me, one I wasn't proud of, felt a sense of satisfaction, like they were getting some kind of karmic payback for how they'd treated Claire and me. But mostly, I just felt sadness. This wasn't what I'd wanted for Adam. Despite everything, I still wanted him to be happy, even if we weren't a part of each other's lives anymore. "Why are you telling me this, Matt?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's not like I can do anything about their problems." Matt sighed and leaned in a little closer, lowering his voice. "Look, man, I know you and Adam have your differences, and I know he's been a total jerk about everything with Claire. But he misses you, Mark. I think he regrets how things went down, but he's too damn proud to admit it. And with everything going on between him and Rachel, I just think maybe this is a chance for you two to try and make things right. If not for him, then at least for yourself." I leaned back in my chair, feeling a weight settle over my chest. Part of me wanted to reject what Matt was saying outright. After all, Adam had made his choices, and I'd made mine. Why should I have to reach out first, especially when he was the one who hurt me and Claire? But another part of me, a quieter, more uncertain part, wondered if Matt was right. I thought about Sarah's words from weeks ago, about not wanting me to have any regrets. And I thought about the years of friendship Adam and I had shared, about the times he'd been there for me when no one else was. Did I really want to hold on to this anger forever, knowing that it might leave us both even more alone? Matt seemed to read the conflict on my face because he added, "Look, I'm not saying you have to do anything. I just thought you should know what's going on. Maybe it'll help you make up your mind." I nodded, giving him a tight smile. "Yeah, thanks, Matt. I appreciate you telling me." We finished our beers, and I headed home, my mind a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. When I got back, Sarah was in the nursery, folding tiny clothes into neat piles. She looked up when I walked in, smiling warmly. But her smile faded when she saw the troubled expression on my face. "Everything okay?" she asked, crossing the room to put a hand on my arm. "Yeah, I think so," I said, though the words didn't feel quite true. "Matt just told me some stuff about Adam and Rachel. Apparently, they're having a rough time." Sarah's brow furrowed, and she led me over to the rocking chair in the corner, sitting down beside me. "What kind of rough time?" I told her everything Matt had shared. The rumors about tension between Adam and Rachel, the idea that Adam might miss me but was too proud to reach out. Sarah listened quietly, her expression thoughtful as she absorbed the news. When I finished, she reached over and squeezed my hand. "What do you think you're going to do?" I let out a long sigh, staring down at our joined hands. "I don't know. Part of me doesn't want to do anything. He's the one who made his choice, and he's the one who cut us out. Why should I be the one to fix it?" Sarah nodded, but she didn't say anything right away. She just waited, giving me space to keep talking if I needed to. After a while, I continued, my voice softer. "But then I think maybe there's still a chance to make things better. Even if it doesn't mean being best friends again, maybe we could at least clear the air." Sarah's gaze was gentle, and she reached up to brush a lock of hair behind her ear. "I think whatever you decide, it has to be what feels right for you, Mark. Not because of guilt or because of what Matt or anyone else thinks. If you want to reach out, then I'll support you. But if you don't, that's okay too. We've built a good life together, and nothing changes that." I felt a lump rise in my throat as I looked at her, thinking about how lucky I was to have someone like her in my life. "You're the best, you know that?" She smiled, leaning over to press a kiss to my cheek. "I know, and I'm also hungry, so let's go make some dinner." That night, as we ate together, I thought about what I wanted to do. I went back and forth in my mind, weighing the pros and cons, trying to imagine what a conversation with Adam might even look like after everything that had happened. But eventually, I decided that I needed to reach out. Not for Adam's sake, but for mine. The next morning, I sent Adam a text. "Hey Adam, I know it's been a while, but I think we should talk. There's a lot that's been left unsaid, and I think it would be good for both of us to clear the air. Let me know if you're up for it." I stared at my phone for a long time after hitting send, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know what kind of response I'd get, if any, but an hour later, my phone buzzed with a reply. "Adam, yeah, I think we should. I'm free this Saturday if you want to grab coffee." Relief and anxiety flooded through me in equal measure. I told him I'd see him then, and for the rest of the week, I felt like I was carrying around a live wire, buzzing with nerves. Sarah could tell I was on edge, and she made sure to give me plenty of space, but she also reassured me with her presence, just being there when I needed a moment to breathe. Saturday finally came, and I drove to the coffee shop where Adam and I had agreed to meet. As I parked and walked up to the door, I spotted him through the window, sitting at a table in the corner, fiddling with his coffee cup. He looked up when I entered, and for a second, our eyes met through the glass. He looked older than I remembered, like the weight of the past year had taken a toll on him. But there was something else in his expression, too, something softer, like he was just as uncertain about this meeting as I was. I took a deep breath and walked inside, heading over to his table. When I sat down, there was an awkward silence between us, the kind that I'd never felt before with Adam. It was strange sitting across from someone who had once been like a brother, and now feeling like there was a canyon between us. "Thanks for meeting me," I said finally, breaking the silence. Adam nodded, taking a sip of his coffee. "Yeah, I'm glad you reached out. I wasn't sure if I'd hear from you again." I shrugged, trying to keep my voice even. "I wasn't sure either, but I think we need to talk about what happened. He nodded again, looking down at his coffee cup like it held some kind of answer. I know I messed up, Mark. I shouldn't have asked you to leave Claire behind. It was a shitty thing to do, and I'm sorry. The apology caught me off guard. For so long, I'd been bracing for excuses or justifications. But hearing him say those words so plainly made something inside me loosen a little. I appreciate you saying that, I said, my voice softer than I'd intended. But why did you do it, Adam? Why did you think it was okay to exclude her like that? He sighed, rubbing a hand over his face. Honestly, I think I let Rachel's insecurities get the better of me. She always felt like she wasn't good enough around Claire, and she convinced herself that Claire looked down on her. And instead of talking to you about it, I just went along with what Rachel wanted. I thought it would keep the peace, but all it did was make everything worse. I listened, trying to process what he was saying. You should have talked to me, Adam. You should have trusted me enough to be honest. Claire, and I would have tried to understand if you'd just explained what was going on. I know, man, I know, he said, his voice cracking. I messed up. And now things aren't great between Rachel and me. She feels guilty about how things went down, but she doesn't know how to fix it. And I feel like I lost my best friend because I chose the wrong side. Hearing the regret in his voice, I realized that I still cared about him, despite everything that had happened. But I also knew that things wouldn't go back to the way they'd been before. Not right away, and maybe not ever. I'm not gonna lie, Adam. It hurt. It hurt a lot, I said, my voice thick with emotion. But I want to believe that we can move forward from this. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I think I'm willing to try. Adam looked up at me, his eyes glassy with unshed tears. I like that too. Rebuilding a friendship, like any relationship, takes time. Adam and I met up a few more times after that, slowly finding our way back to some kind of understanding. There were still moments of awkwardness, of lingering hurt, but I could see that he was trying, and that meant something. As for Rachel, she eventually reached out to Sarah with an apology of her own. It wasn't a perfect reconciliation. There were too many wounds for things to heal overnight, but it was a start. Sarah accepted the apology with grace, though she made it clear that she wouldn't be forgetting what had happened anytime soon. By the time our baby was born, the tension between us had softened into something more manageable. Adam and Rachel even came to visit us in the hospital, bringing a gift basket full of baby clothes and stuffed animals. As I watched them hold our newborn daughter, I couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, we could build something new from the ashes of the past. TLDR, my best friend Adam invited me to his wedding, but specifically excluded my wife, Claire, saying his fiancée, Rachel, felt uncomfortable around her. I refused to attend without Claire, causing a huge fallout with Adam. We didn't speak for months, and I later learned through a mutual friend that Adam and Rachel were having relationship issues and that Adam regretted how things went down. After much reflection and encouragement from my wife, I reached out to Adam to talk. He apologized, admitting that he mishandled things due to Rachel's insecurities. While it was painful, we slowly began to rebuild our friendship. Rachel later apologized to Claire, and when our baby was born, Adam and Rachel visited us, giving us hope that we might be able to move forward, even if things would never be the same as before.